This off-season for Toronto Maple Leafs fans has already been full of rumours, trade disagreements, arguments about the future of the Leafs, as well as some changes already, and no doubt there are more changes to come. So where do the Leafs go from here after another first round exit? Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Victoria and normally I talk all things Toronto sports from across the pond in Scotland, but I'm actually in Canada right now, so I get to film this actually in Leafsland. So look out for a Toronto vlog which will be coming very soon. But today we're talking about Leafs changes. Of course we already have a coaching change, but what else do the Leafs need to change this off-season in order to improve what they've already got? Do they need to make massive changes? Are minor ones going to be enough? Do you stick with the core? So these are my thoughts as a Leafs fan about what changes the Leafs need to make. So of course a change which has already happened and one which I'm very happy about is the firing of Sheldon Keefe and the new coach being Craig Berube, which I am really excited about. And I loved Sheldon Keefe and I think he's going to be great for the New Jersey Devils. I think they've got a great coach there with lots of potential. I just think he had taken the Leafs as far as he could and I couldn't see where he was going to go with them from there, so I think it was definitely his time to go. His time was up and I wish Sheldon all the best. I really do like what he's done for the Leafs, but I think it was time for a change up and I think this team needs someone a little bit different now to take over the reins, and I was rooting for Craig Berube. Realistically, out of the viable candidates, of which there turned out to be quite a few because the Leafs clearly did their homework and went through full interview processes before deciding, and I was really rooting for Craig Berube. I had said that for a while. I just think he's got such a different approach to what Keefe did, and I think it could be exactly what this team needs. He brings a much more fiery and competitive side. I wonder if Sheldon Keefe, I'm not saying he had a soft approach by any means, but it was certainly more subtle than what Berube is known for being like. Maybe all this team needs is somebody different in charge of the players, somebody different coaching them, a different personality and a different philosophy in the dressing room, someone who's going to push these players out of their comfort zone, because that's definitely what is needed, especially for this core group. If that core is staying intact, there has to be some difference in the way that they are coached and managed, and I think Berube could be just the guy to do that properly. We've already seen Berube meeting Mitch Marner for a coffee out in public, which he's definitely just getting to know his players both off the ice as well as on the ice. It's very easy to look at players on paper and like watch them play on the ice, but it's definitely important for team chemistry and for all the decisions that you make within a hockey team to know the guys off the ice too, and that's clearly what he's doing there. The fact it was out in public does make me think that Berube does not give a shit about what people think and what people say, which is fantastic for this market, because what other market would deep dive so far into a player and a coach meeting out somewhere for coffee as the Toronto market? Like, I don't think there's another hockey market exists that would be sort of using their detective skills the way that it has been on this. People were analysing body language and stuff. That's a bit much for me, but I do like the fact that it was out in public and clearly they're on both sides there, like they didn't care about the fact that it would definitely be spoken about, which is definitely a necessary attitude to have if you're going to survive in the Leafs market. Berube is quite an intense guy. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do with this team. He definitely brings a different approach, a different mindset, and I think it could be the very change that was needed. For me, coaching was definitely the biggest change and the primary change that the Leafs had to make. Sheldon Keefe had to go. He probably could have gone last year. Keefe could have left last year, to be honest, but it's happened this year. It's definitely the right decision, and I think Berube is a great person for the job. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. Leading on smoothly from that is, of course, the other hot topic of the Leafs off-season, which is, of course, Mitch Marner. With a full no-move clause and the fact that his contract is up after this year, the Leafs would need to get value out of trading him. Otherwise, he is going to just walk to free agency. This has definitely been a highly contended area amongst Leafs fans and the media alike, because there are a lot of Marner defenders, there are a lot of Marner haters, and me personally, I sit right in the middle of those. I have never been one to use Mitch as a scapegoat, but I do think that there's probably some change needed within this core, and while he is not really a viable option, he's the only one that I would be okay with moving if he were to, offer to and waive his NMC, which of course would need to happen, and it's important to remember that has to happen. And ultimately, if Mitch doesn't want to waive it, then he's staying, and that's the bottom line. But say hypothetically Mitch Marner does waive his NMC, perhaps it's the opportunity to get multiple players to replace him, because you're not going to get another Mitch Marner. Like, Mitch Marner is a unique player, no matter what you think, and replacing him one for one is basically impossible. So the best you can probably do is try and get a few different moving pieces in exchange for Marner. And I've seen a number of potential trades, such as Seattle getting Marner in exchange for Shane Wright and Adam Larsson. There were thoughts that maybe Marner would go to Pittsburgh to be with Kyle Dubas, etc. My absolute dream ideal would be to get Jussi Saros. I would love to get Saros for Marner. The Leafs need better goaltending. Better goaltending would make all the difference for them. I just don't see the progression in Mitch Marner's performance in the postseason, and he has great numbers. His stats are really, really good, but in comparison to the likes of Nylander and Matthews, I don't personally anyway see quite the same value. And we'll get to Tavares in a second, but out of that core group, Mitch Marner has to be the one that gives. If one of them's if you're going to switch up the core, it realistically only makes sense for it to be Marner, despite the NMC. Marner underperformed. His attitude with the media seems to have really shifted in the last year or so. Maybe that's my imagination, but he definitely seems to have, his personality with the press and with the media has shifted, and it's a tough market to be in. It's really tough, and who knows what Mitch is thinking. Maybe he wants to get out, maybe he wants something different, maybe he wants to stay a Leaf. At the end of the day, fans can't make those choices, but we can share our thoughts and debate about it. So definitely let me know, would you keep Mitch Marner, or if he were willing to waive his NMC, would you trade him? And who for? Basically, my thoughts that are, if you are going to trade him, hypothetically, you have to get the value back for that. Otherwise, it is not worth it. Otherwise, you're going to leave a gap in the team. Just for a minute to touch on Brendan Shanahan. Now, the Shanahan plan has clearly not worked. The whole ideology was built around this core group and how that was going to take the Leafs to a cup. That was the Shanahan plan, and it has not worked. We have a big enough sample size now of years where we can just tell that does not work. That is not working for this team, and there has to be some change. I don't think Brendan Shanahan is going anywhere, and I wasn't really too fussed about it. I think there were more rumblings from fans around wanting that right after the first round exit, and I think a lot of people just reactively want to blow up the team at that point, but you can't blow up the entire team without risking potentially not even making playoffs the following year, which would of course be a disaster. Shanahan has definitely improved the team since 2014, but people still do want new leadership, and the plan he came in with isn't working, so it's time to shift that plan. Probably still under Brendan Shanahan, but his time's probably running out too. And then there is the John Tavares issue. Now, anyone who knows me knows I am a John Tavares fan through and through, and I defend that man constantly. I love him. I think he brings a valuable experience onto the team, and I really like the role that he plays. That said, of course, $11 million a year is highly overpaid, and it's way too high a contract for the level that he's playing at now, but he is in the last year of that contract, and it's very likely, given that him and his family are so settled in Toronto, he will take a heavy discount next year to stay with the Leafs. Then he'll be playing at the salary that he should be. I mean, $11 million is not worth a 65-point season. It's definitely not. I do think he does still have a really valuable place on the team, and I think it would be stupid to let him go knowing that after this year you're likely to get a heavy discount compared to, in comparison, Mitch Marner. After his contract's up, he's definitely going to be looking for a pay increase after this year. So those are the two, that's the major difference there for me anyway. I would also eventually like to see the C being moved over from Tavares to Austin Matthews. I think as time goes on, JT's role within the team will obviously change and alter, and I think that Matthews is now becoming the sort of player that I'd love to see have the captaincy, so that's something I would really hope to see. Of no hate to John Tavares, because I love that man through and through, but I just would love to see Austin Matthews get the C one day. Then we have Bertuzzi and Domi, and I'm going to talk about the two at once because the two are kind of generally talked about in tandem. It's already been reported that both those players have desires to come back to Toronto next year, and Bertuzzi had a 21 goal season, and I really liked the Domi, Bertuzzi, Matthews line that was going on there. I did really like that. However, it does depend on the money for me, and some of the rumoured deals that I've seen come out for these two players are just too much in my opinion. I think it's just way too much. I think it's too much. I think it's for too long. Domi had a really slow start to the season, and he ended up with 47 points in 80 games. He did have 4 playoff points, and I do wonder if perhaps a longer term deal but less AAV might be a good idea. I'm not quite as itching to get both these guys back as what I know some other fans are, and ideally I'd love to have them back but on the right salary, but the Leafs just have a tendency to constantly overpay players, and I think this could be another instance where that could happen, and I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of seeing Toronto wrapping so much money up in certain players only for it not to pan out over time and as time goes on. I don't feel like other NHL teams do that. I feel like it's a real Leafs problem, if I'm honest. So Bertuzzi and Domi, I'm a little bit on the fence about. I wouldn't be mad about them coming back. I also wouldn't be mad if they left, and I'd love to have them back but for a decent price. I wouldn't really be wanting the hands to go too deep into the pockets for either of these players, if I'm completely honest. I think there's definitely other players on the market that they could have that would fill up the spots that those two have on the team. I don't see them as irreplaceable in the same way that I do see other players, so we'll see what happens there. I think it's likely that at least one of them will come back. Perhaps both of them will be back, who knows? I don't know, I'm a little bit on the fence. I just don't want the Leafs wrapping up too much money in them because I don't think it's worth it. But they are good players. They did add to the team, especially in the latter part of the season. So we'll see what happens, I guess. I don't know. I'm not too sure on that one. And then finally, I'm just going to touch on goaltending. I love Joseph Woll so much, but he is quite injury prone given how young he still is. And Samsonov, I also really admire as a goaltender, but his inconsistencies are huge. And day to day, you don't know which version of him you're getting. Sometimes he plays exceptionally well. Other times he does play really sort of below par. And it's just the lack of consistency there that does concern me a lot. The market for goaltenders is not great, and it hasn't been great recently, and it's definitely the area that the Leafs year on year struggle with. Every season they seem to have this same problem when it comes to goaltending. As I've mentioned earlier in this video, I want Saros so badly. Nashville, give me a goalie. I want Saros so badly. I just see something there that I think would be a great fit for the Leafs. I love Sammy, but I can't see him being back. Woll is great to have, but you can't rely on him as a starting goaltender. He's just not able to play that many games, I don't think, and Samsonov was the same. And even though they are both good goaltenders, neither of them are like great goaltenders all the time. They have amazing moments, and I don't blame the exit on the goaltending at all. The goaltending was not the problem. Ultimately, the lack of scoring was the biggest problem in the postseason this year. The Leafs were not scoring enough goals to win games, and watching the playoffs sort of pan out thereafter, I can't have seen them, even if they'd got to the second round, if they'd won that game 7 against Boston, I'm not wholeheartedly sure that that they would have made it past the second round either. Florida are an insanely good team, and I just don't think the Leafs would have scored enough against them to win, even if they had somehow made it through that Game 7. But the goaltending was not the issue there. There were definitely a couple of games where the goaltending was weak, but in particular that Game 7, the goaltending on both ends was fantastic, but the Leafs really held their own with the goaltending. And so even though it's not the main problem area, it is still just an ongoing issue for the Leafs that they need to sort of find a way to address, in my opinion. So those are my thoughts on the Leafs' potential changes this off-season. Let me know down below in the comments, what do you think about the new coaching change? What do you think in terms of trades that the Leafs need to make? What are your thoughts on this off-season for the Leafs? Because I'm feeling like it's going to be a summer of change, a new chapter, a new era when the next season starts, and I'm really excited to see what happens. But I also am sort of thinking that this next year for the Leafs might just be a case of just swallowing up the cost for this year, trying to find their footing, and thereafter try and sort of not rebuild, that's dramatic, but spend the next sort of season scoping out what they can do thereafter. And I just wonder if that might be the route they go down instead. So thank you so much for watching. As I said, I'm currently in Ontario and I'm going up to Toronto itself tomorrow, and I'll be vlogging that, of course, so look out for some more Toronto content, and also some New York content is also coming your way. So I hope you guys like vlogs, especially vlogs that will include a lot of sports related stuff, because you're in the right place. So make sure to hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I post a video, because I just upload when I can. This is a great hobby, but it takes time to put videos together, so they do come out kind of sporadically. So hit that notification bell so that you can see when I've uploaded a new video. And I'll be back soon with more hockey chats, usually from across the pond, but for now, just a Scottish girl talking Toronto sports. Bye guys.